bonjour. And for my Caribbean people in the house, Wapam, Wagwan. My name is Suezette Yasmin Robotham, and I have the honor and pleasure of stewarding Salesforce's Executive Recruiting Equality Strategy team. And so really thinking about the ways that we continue to grow our company in a way that reflects the wonderful community and organizations that we serve. And I know that there are people eating and people that's down here now. And so just real quick, show of hands, how many people are Salesforce customers or partners here? How many of y'all have Salesforce? Okay, hey Fur. And so we're really excited to be here today. I think that we are all fully invested and bought into this conversation about where we're going in terms of AI, specifically generative AI, has come in and knocked NFT out. How many people still even think about NFT? Nobody. And what's really important to us as we're continuing to evolve our own understanding of the conversation is bringing expert voices and perspective into the conversation. And so I'm incredibly grateful to be here today with my amazing colleague from EMEA who's doing the work to ensure that we're also taking our work around equality global. Our head of M&A, who's making sure that we're being thoughtful and intentional about our mergers and acquisitions, and our HR leader for our product org that's making sure that we're thinking about the people that do the work, right? Because at the end of the day, and we heard it in the conversation earlier, it's people that drive the work and create the technology that we're using. And their unique expertise and experience is really going to help us have the conversation that we need to about what is the future of tech? What does it mean for the workforce? What does it mean for acquisitions? What does it mean for our organizations and our culture? And how do we actually engage and think about that? And so I actually want to start with the people component of it because I have incredible women up here that I have brought from literally across the world. Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, and London to have this conversation. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't get to know them as women and leaders. And so in 60 seconds, and I'll start with Sinead, talk to us a little bit about your journey to Salesforce and why you are at Salesforce.
So I actually started my career at Google. Right, so
also, all right, not started but been there, and so foremost Googler.
And during the time, actually, when I was there were about 54,000 employees, and only 0.1% of them were black women. And it was actually then when I was having a seat at the table and realizing that I was most of the time the only one in the room, that I wanted to think about ways in which to really create the opportunities for the next generation to come through. So founded the Afro-Google Network, which was one of the biggest ERGs in EMEA. And then from there, I actually moved into e-commerce. So I started my own e-commerce, and I ran an e-commerce business focusing specifically on the LGBTQ community. And after selling that business, then moved into Shopify Plus, right? So we can see there is that journey of tech. I was in Shopify Plus for a bit, and then from there, I was able to move into Commerce Cloud, and now my home Salesforce. So internal mobility is really something that we focus on in Salesforce, and I was able to move into the world of equality, in the Office of Equality, and lead the equality enablement and talent programs. And outside of that, I also run a UK-registered charity called We Are We, and we focus on the empowerment of women development and the eradication of period poverty. So I'm so excited to talk about what you're going to ask us today.
Awesome, thank you. Wendy, 60 seconds. Why Salesforce?
Okay, I'm Wendy Nicholson. I started as a developer, so early on I knew I wanted to be in tech. Most times I'm usually the only woman and sometimes the only person of color in my space. And so since I lead tech and product mergers and acquisitions at Salesforce, it's always very interesting there too. My journey was definitely a little varied. I started as a single mom coming out of college and really started my career in tech and then worked for various companies, Walmart, Home Depot, HBO at the time, HBO and Company, Intercontinental Hotels, Equifax, and then I got into mergers and acquisitions there and then landed a fantastic opportunity at Salesforce as the vice president. And it's been amazing because they aligned tremendously with my values and the things that make me me. So I can be myself at work, I can bring my whole self to work, and the things that I value that we can do at Salesforce. So volunteering, supporting other underrepresented groups, women in tech, Those are all things that are super important to me, as well as growing myself. So I'm happy to be at Salesforce, glad for the opportunity to lead the M&A team. And it's super interesting and super exciting, and I'm just looking forward to what's next.
Love that. And last and most certainly not least, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Michelle Medrano Schilling Law, and Suzette, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I love this question. It gives me the opportunity as a Latina woman to talk about my personal journey. We all have our stories. Over the last 20 years of being in tech, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'll pretend it's for me. Having been with companies like Adobe and Apple and Samsung, it's been amazing getting more comfortable sharing my own personal journey, but also uplifting and amplifying the story of others. And equally, if not more so important, having leaders understand and be able to share their own personal stories and or making space for others to have those conversations. I think in this moment of really deciding what side of equality conversation you're on, as we see companies in the US stepping away from, I'm incredibly proud to say that Salesforce is doubling down on their mission of equality. It is one of our top 5 values as a company. It is definitely what keeps me here and motivates me. When I think of our other values, such as innovation and trust, having equality be one of our top 5 is incredible, and it's taught me that the more my own personal values complement and overlap that of a company's, I'm that much more fulfilled. And I want to share some stats because I want, hopefully, some of you to get excited about getting to know Salesforce better and even talking to some of our colleagues. We've got Fur and Frank, and of course, the 4 of us, about opportunities. What I will tell you is in 2022, we achieved our goal of 50% US workforce as identified as an underrepresented group. Just take a moment. We're at 50%. Black representation at VP level or higher doubled in 2023. That's right. In 2024, this just recently happened over the last 3 months, we did our pay equity, and our results found that 3% of our employees needed a pay adjustment, which we did proactively across the globe. Our global workforce includes 36% women, and in the US, 10% African American or Black. From a product perspective, this is the team that I support, and I'm incredibly proud of this. 45.5% of our VP Plus leadership represents underrepresented minorities or women in that space. That's almost 46%. We're also taking 2024 as the opportunity to establish a new baseline as a company as we set goals for each of our organizations and company-wide into 2030. And again, this is a time where most companies are stepping away from this conversation. That is why I'm at Salesforce.
I love that, and we are a data-driven organization, so thank you for the stats, Michelle. And most important to that part of the conversation, and what I hope you hopefully get from that is, we are a values-driven company. We care about making sure that where there's opportunity to improve, that we get better, and where there's opportunity to exceed expectations, that we get greater. And so the thing that I would say is common across all of us is that we are grateful and excited to work for an organization where there's opportunity and potential. And I want to pause for a second on focusing on Salesforce and actually have Wendy pull out her crystal ball. And again, it's not lost on me that we do have a Black woman leading our mergers and acquisitions work, which means that you have your eyes, heart, mind, spirit, and everything on the market at all times. And so as you are looking through your crystal ball with the mergers and acquisitions lens, where do you see tech evolving to right now? And how do you then think of that with this just rapid pace rise of generative AI and other disruptive tech?
Yeah, thank you for that, Suzette, as well. I love being in M&A, and I love technology. And as you've seen, I think all of us have had to switch gears as AI has taken the forefront in everything that we're doing. And it does so as well when you think about mergers and acquisitions. It is a way to grow your business, potentially grow your revenue, potentially add products to your space that you don't already have, potentially add tech talent to your staff that you don't already have. So all of those things kind of come into play. And when you have to switch gears, if your focus is now AI, what does that look like? Are we looking at companies that are AI companies? Are we looking at companies that are data companies? Why? Because we have to have LLMs. We have to have the data that will support your AI, right? So the future for me is like, one is don't be afraid of it. I think you have to govern. I think you have to have some guardrails, in which we do. We have an AI council at Salesforce, and we have women on the White House's AI collective, right? So we have people that we're joining the White House in their efforts to have guardrails and know more about AI and help us as a country. So I would say that the future is more M&A will be coming, and I think the focuses will be on things that you see that are happening today. Like you said, NFTs are a thing of the past. AI is front and center. Data is front and center. We've got our data cloud. We've got AI. We've got all of that together. And so I think, again, don't be afraid. Embrace it. Learn. But also be your own advocates, right? Like, look at the biases. Look at the ethics. And we try to make sure that those are things that we had to change and ask. Those types of questions of companies when we were trying to acquire them. Like, what data are you using? How is it secure? The trust pieces of it. All of those things too, but also asking them harder questions. We all can use ChatGPT. We all can use OpenAI. That's not enough. Like, you really have to have substance, and you really have to have the technology behind it for us to really think that you should be a Salesforce company. So that's where I think we're going.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. And so I'm going to keep the crystal ball out, right? So we are Miss Cleo today. Call me no. Because the technology is not enough at the center. If you don't leave this conversation with anything else top of mind today, it is the people. So LLMs are reflective of human input and can also be reflective of human error, right? But we know that we, as organizations and companies, are only as strong as the people that we have. And so, Michelle, if I ask you to look into your crystal ball, things like generative AI and other disruptive tech are changing the requirements for the workforce. And how we even think about the skill set and talent. Remember when everybody was like, we all have to have CS degrees? I'm like, I don't know what degrees you need for AI. I need that one, though, because I heard of some coins attached. But I want to know, like, what are your predictions for the workforce of tomorrow? And what are the skills and capabilities people are going to need to keep pace with the speed of tech?
Yeah, another great question. Thank you. So what I would say is that we are all living in what is called a gig economy. And by that, I mean, now more than ever, we're seeing people enter places of freelance, consulting. You're seeing more entrepreneurs now than you ever had, means more opportunity for acquisitions. And the traditional workforce has changed. What that means as employers is we need to think more broadly, and we need to help employees and candidates, quite candidly, upskill and continuously learn. So creating space to have that happen. At Salesforce, we have an incredible tool known as Trailhead. Hopefully everyone is aware of it. If not, again, pitch for our product today. That is a free product. It's available not only to our employees, but to everyone. And there are all kinds of learning modules on there, inclusive of AI, to help people understand and uplift their skills in this space. So continuous learning is definitely something that companies need to think of, part of top of mind and as their strategy. You got to lean into AI as well. Things like applicant tracking systems help companies eliminate bias. It also allows us to process data faster than we ever have before. That said, as you mentioned, Suezette, it's important that we do audits regularly to make sure that what we're putting into the system and our expectations meet that of the requirements to find best qualified candidates. The other thing is companies need to think top of mind in hybrid workforce. We need to make sure that we continue to provide flexibility that was introduced. I see shaking of the head over there. I see you. I see you. Hybrid workforce is definitely something that needs to remain top of mind. And then, of course, we've got to make sure that we're providing benefits and staying ahead of what those benefits look like in this new gig economy. Yeah. And, of course, paying people what they're worth for the jobs that they're doing.
Do you see why I love them? Pay the people what they're worth. But more importantly, right, as we're acquiring new companies, as we're bringing new skill sets on, the importance of ongoing learning and development and education. And so, Sinead, I want to come to you to talk a little bit about what Salesforce is doing to ensure that there does not become a gap, both from a perspective of access and opportunity from an equity and education lens for AI.
Love that question, and that's the question that tends to come to us a lot around how we're closing the access gap within the world of AI or within the world of technology. So according to the World Economic Forum, we know that 75% of businesses are set to adopt AI by the end of 2027. And 25% actually believe that this is going to displace jobs, whereas 50% believe this is going to create jobs, right? And in the fact that we're thinking about ways in which we're going to, incorporate and adopt AI into our businesses, we need to make sure that we are ready as a, company and as a workforce to ensure that we can handle those requirements. So this is why, philanthropy is one of the things that we take seriously at Salesforce, and we think about ways in which to reduce the access gap. So how we do that is in investing in our students. So and there's many things that we do. We work very closely with local organizations, and we also think about the nonprofits. So last year, we actually donated $20 million in grants to local schools in the US and also global educational and nonprofits. And we really have been pushing and driving Trailhead as well. So as Michelle mentioned, this is one of our learning platforms. We have over 43 badges on the platform already focused on AI and data already. And we have already seen over 1.5 million certificates on that, completed on that already. And that's just so powerful. We know that people are really focusing on upskilling. We know that it's an important thing. And when we think about Trailhead as a whole, we know that 75 million certificates have already been completed. So if people are upskilling, they're proactively doing it. I really encourage everyone to do that. Think about that. Put that at the forefront of your mind. And that's how we close the access gap.
I love that, Sinead. And confession, I am not one of the 1.5 million people that has their Salesforce AI certificate, but it is on my calendar for post-Can Inkwell activation support. So shout out, of course, to Adrian and Cheyenne and Erica and Fran. This has been incredible, but has kept me from being certified with the rest of my cohort. But it's exciting that our company actively supports our growth and development. We are all Salesforce Rangers, so 100% completion on this stage, and do definitely encourage you all to think about leveraging Trailhead in terms of broadening your own perspective on tech. And Michelle, that leads me actually back to you, because I do think the investments that companies make, not only in the acquiring of talent, but then also the retention of their talent, is really important. And so what are some of the things or the nuggets that you would give around strategies to improve both the talent attraction but the retention strategies that teams can really be thinking about in this day and era?
Yeah, nothing replaces conversations, right? Even the technology that we're talking about now does not replace the responsibility that we all have, regardless of the role, regardless of the company, to have the conversation with one another about equality. So I think that first and foremost. I think as companies like ours have the platform and the responsibility to also take a stand from an equality position, again, where so many other companies are stepping away from the conversation, it becomes more important. And quite candidly, the more we talk about it, we attract and we retain the talent that we want and, quite candidly, need in our space. I also go back to upskilling of talent. I think all of us want to continuously learn, and I think in this environment, it's a requirement for employers to provide not only the technology, but the time and space to do that. And learning comes in so many different forms and fashion. You heard Wendy talking about VTO. That is our time that we take to volunteer to help nonprofits through our technology also expand their immediate remits. And through these conversations that we're having and these activations, we also leverage that to retain or attract new talent, which is why we're here today.
I love that, Michelle. And I think the thing that is front of mind for me is through that education that we get on an ongoing basis, you actually power and drive innovation through your people because they become inspired and become entrepreneurs, right? That skill set of being able to create and grow and develop inside your company. And Wendy, if I come back to you, with that increasing emphasis on innovation, both in product and people, because there is no product without the people, how do you really think that emphasis on innovation and agility is going to be balanced in organizations when you think about then cultural cohesion and integrating new technologies into organization?
Yeah, I will say that culture is huge, and I think people underestimate the impact of culture on people. And one of the things that we also do is, when we acquire a company, we are assessing the culture as well. And we need to understand their culture versus our culture, and what will that look like if we're combined? And be able to make sure that they do fit, right? That they fit in our landscape, and/or that we're not bringing in maybe toxic behaviors that we don't want to see at Salesforce. And we care about our employees, we care about the people that we're going to require. And so I think those are super important when we think about it. And when you think about innovation, this is the same. It's giving people the space to be innovative. It is giving people the space to say, let's do things a different way. Not always that we will say, hey, acquisition, you have to do it the Salesforce way. There are times when they may do it better. So you have to kind of take that into consideration as well. And you don't think about the fact that just because we bought you, that you should adhere to everything that we say. But we are very conscious of making sure that we think about the culture, we think about the people, but we also think about what technology and innovation that they may be bringing to the table, that we even looked at them in the first place. So I think that those are all very key in terms of growth, along with from an M&A perspective.
I love that. It's also not lost on me that we are talking about technology and I'm very analog. On this panel, paper and pen will never, the first innovation, paper and pen. But I also know, right, it's very easy to talk about it at a very high level strategic. And so Sinead, I want to come back to you and talk about if somebody was like, you know what, how do I do this today? Right, and we know that team culture and leader enablement is a very important part around activating the innovation and inciting the learning and development. Talk to us a little bit about how leaders and the leaders in this space can have the safety to start building a culture of experimentation and innovation around the business.
The first thing, or the only word I would say, is trust. In order for companies to really be successful when it comes to AI adoption and innovation is you need to make sure that it's trustworthy, right? A lot of the concerns that we're hearing across the board are things around data, privacy, security, transparency, control. I can go on. The list is endless, right? So when we think about trust, we need to think about ways to innovate whilst also closing the trust gap. So there's various things that you can do as a leader. You can think about, okay, what policies are in place? What are your principles when it comes to AI? So the type of principles that we think about is inclusive principles. So AI not only has to represent the values of the individuals that it's there to serve, it also has to really advance equality and equity in all that it does. It has to empower. It has to supercharge human capabilities. So instead of replacing the human capability, it should be there to complement. And then when we think about policies, I know that Wendy already mentioned things around guardrails. Well, what are your guardrails? What are your acceptable use policies? What can and can't you do with AI products? So as an example, we have various policies in place, such as the prohibited use of facial recognition within our products, right? Just because of the inherent discrimination and racial biases of using facial recognition. We also have the Einstein trust layer, which is more around the core products. What have we done to create and design things internally? And that ensures the privacy and the bias protections that are needed. So if you really want to innovate, think about what sort of things you can do. Make sure that your AI technology is accurate. Make sure that it's safe. Make sure that you are honest. Make sure that you protect your customer data. And I would definitely say you can also do internal innovation. So there's things such as AI hackathons, where you can get your tech teams inside internally to start thinking about some of the tools and systems that you have, and red team that. Start thinking about the biases that might be embedded in that and learn internally. And then finally, I would say, think about the AI ethical councils that are around there, right? There are so many thought leaders in this industry that really want to partner with you all. We don't know what we're doing. We're in the AI revolution, and this is a time and this is the moment where we actually can learn together. So think about ways in which you can also get involved. So as mentioned, we are already part of the White House Voluntary AI Council, and these voluntary commitments means that we publicly share all learning and progress when it comes to AI. We make sure that we focus on, should I say, reliable and ethical use of AI production. And then finally, I would say, think about ways in which you can also invest in the next talent when you innovate. So we also have the Impact Fund, which is a Salesforce accelerator specifically focused on ways in which we can invest in those companies that want to transform AI for the best.
I love that. Thank you, Sinead. So values of trust are incredibly important and is foundational to all that we do, but also our number 1 core value. And so I'm going to wrap us up with one final question, and I'm going to have all of these incredible ladies that I trust. You understand how I like to snuggle with them. I know that's work appropriate HR, but I do really trust these women. They are incredible leaders and invaluable assets to me. So when you talk about trust, you see it genuinely on this stage. Feel the love and really appreciate each of them. And so I'm going to start with Michelle. What does it mean to work at the #1 AI CRM company in the world?
Yeah, another great question. For me personally, it means responsibility, and it means leveraging the platform that I do have. Again, at this moment in time, I think the conversation of equality is now more important than ever. We're seeing a lot of churn in the space around talent. I also talked to you about gig economy, where we're seeing people become freelancers, consultants, contractors more than ever. I think we have the responsibility and the platform to double down on things like equality, where we know that a diverse population is more innovative and resonates with our customer base more than ever. That's only going to get more progressive as we start to leverage things like AI and beyond. So that's what it means to be at Salesforce.
I love that. Wendy.
One of my superpowers is competition. So being #1 is right up there for me. And I will say, working for the #1 CRM company in the world is amazing, and I believe that we are doing the right things, not only for our employees, but also for our customers. And back to what Sinead said too about trust, that is super important to me. It is also important to me that we give back to the VTO, back to supporting sustainability. Those are all things that are super important to me, and I feel proud to be able to share those types of metrics and having those kind of conversations. But I'm also very proud that I'm in a space where I can also represent, that I can show others that this is a space or a role that they can also attain, right? You do your hard work, you do what you have to do, but I think that being at Salesforce allows me that, and I definitely feel that there is always opportunity to do more, and always opportunity to give back to the community and be supported giving back to the communities that I live in. So for me, that's what's super important, and definitely the road to 50 billion will be pretty awesome as well.
I love that, Wendy. And as a great philosopher named Nelly once said, 2 is not a winner and 3 nobody remembers. So being number 1, we're okay with that. There's nothing wrong with a little competition. Sinead, what does it mean to be at the #1 AI CRM company in the world?
I love that question. I feel privileged. I definitely feel privileged, to be in this space, to be with a company that really invests in its people and invests in the community in which it serves. I think for me, it's thinking about ways in which I could, use my privilege to kind of bring the next generation up or change the systemic, biases or practices that still actually happen subconsciously or things that we don't necessarily see. So it's so powerful to be able to be part of the Office of Equality that really does ask those tough questions and actually puts the dollars behind making those changes. So it's transformative, and I really look forward to kind of connecting with people and also building bonds that really will never break.
I love that. And I will say that being the #1 AI CRM company in the world and having a position like mine that is focused in diversifying our leadership, which is actually, for me, the point of transformational change. The more diverse your leadership is, the more diverse your company is, the more diverse your products are, and the better they represent the world. And so the fact that my role exists, I'm the first person to be in it and happily in it. So my 2-year anniversary will be on Angel Day 10/10 is just very much not a blessing, not only to me because I get to work at the nexus of my passion and my purpose every single day, but to be able to change the world through an organization like Salesforce, which serves the world, because I saw a lot of y'all were customers and partners, is really exciting and empowering, but also allows me to sit in a space where I'm getting to change the world by creating access and opportunity for folks like you in this room. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my 2 other colleagues here. So Franck, live and direct from London by way of Côte d'Ivoire, and Fer, live and direct
We
from...
actually have one more as well. Felicity, hello.
I didn't know Felicity was here. Hi, Felicity, live and direct from...
Salesforce as well.
Where are you at, Felicity? London. And Fer, live and direct from Amsterdam, also by way of Suriname. Yes. They are a part of our executive recruiting team, my incredible partners in work and/or crime, depending on the day. And finally, I would be very remiss if I did not give space and acknowledge that it is an honor to be here with you all today. I think that this is probably one of the most incredible spaces I've ever been in, and I go to a lot of places. They will tell you my calendar is always gone. But to be in a space that is nourishing and is pouring back into the community in the way that the Cannes Inkwell space is incredible. And so again, I want to thank Adrian, Cheyenne, Erica, and Fran for just creating what has been an incredible week for us. Again, future of tech is the people in it, and so we are excited to be here. Thank you again, Sinead, Wendy, Michelle, part of my personal executive cabinet. I'm glad I was able to share them with you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy your rest of your time in Cannes.